Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and what are the best states to go out there and save a bunch of money when it comes to taxes, okay? And by the way, guys, this right here is going to sound messed up, okay? But one of my favorite things ever is basically seeing someone, for example, get their first job ever and say, Tommy, I'm gonna make so much money, and then they get their first basically paycheck, and they're like, yo, where did all my money go? And then all of a sudden they want to be a Republican because basically they're taking way too much taxes out of my pocket, okay? JK though, I'm joking, all right? However though, seriously though, okay, there are a lot of taxes out there, and there's also a lot of ways to save money on taxes, but basically one of the easiest way is just going to be to go out there and switch your state. One of the easiest ways, okay? And by the way, guys, we have 50 states in America, and they are not all made equal. So just by basically switching, it's just gonna save a lot of money. And by the way, if you are a remote employee, it's a lot more easier. Basically, you can go anywhere you actually want and save a bunch of money. But if you're not, it's fine. You can still use one of these states to then go out there, get a job over there, and save a lot of money in taxes, even though you might take a pay cut, but that way you also pay less in taxes. So in reality, it might just average out. That way you can basically have a better quality of life at the same time. Now, by the end of this video, I'll also tell you, for example, exactly how I'm saving around $75K in taxes just by making one move. And by the way, I used to pay $85K a year, and now I'm gonna pay somewhere around $10,000, okay? So, well, $70,000, well, $75K I'm actually saving, yeah, $75K, so yeah, a lot of money in savings. I'll tell you exactly how by the end of this video. Now, by the way, if you guys are new here, I post videos every single day, so you should also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified, and on top of that, also destroy the like button. Now, the very first thing, guys, is going to be the types of taxes, because by the way, there's not just one, but there are several ways that you actually get taxed, okay? And I don't think, for example, anyone's trying to say, hey, I don't ever want to pay taxes. I want to be a slumbag. I don't want to pay anything right now. In reality, most likely, all you want to do is save some money and taxes. And by the way, usually there is no way to avoid all the taxes in the world, okay? Let's just be honest, okay? And you shouldn't be able to, because in some way, you got to pay a fair share. So overall, the idea is not for this video, hey, here's how you avoid taxes, never pay anything. No, you will pay tax in some way, but the overall goal is to save a big chunk of taxes when it comes to, hey, my earnings, I don't want to pay that 30% or that 40%. Well, in reality, how can you actually avoid that? That is what we're going to break down this video. But before we do that, guys, I want to break down different types of taxes, how they work, and why we get taxed, okay? Because by the way, that was never explained to me initially, either in high school or college or any of those places, okay? So basically, guys, the first tax that usually you're going to see is going to be federal taxes. And this is basically you getting taxed at the federal level, okay? And when you get taxed here, you get taxed between 10% at the lowest point, all the way up to 37% at the highest end if you're making somewhere around $518K per year, okay? The cool thing is basically though, if you do get married or you are married and you're filing jointly, you do get to save money in taxes. However, I don't recommend you say, hey, Tommy, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get married with someone I don't care about just to go ahead and save money on taxes. Obviously, that is not going to be a good idea. Now, guys, on top of that, federal taxes go towards, for example, the national defense, also, for example, social programs, and on top of that, also to pay the interest on the entire national debt, okay? And by the way, I say this because basically, a lot of times we only know, hey, we pay taxes, but we don't know for what and how the money is actually being used, okay? So a part of it is going towards national defense, paying the interest on the debt, and also social programs. So keep that in mind. And by the way, guys, when it comes to taxes, I like what Warren Buffett says, okay? And the quote says basically, he says, if you were born in an amazing country, in an amazing world, but you weren't able to pick basically if you were born disabled, a certain color, with a certain problem, what do you want to live somewhere that gives you, for example, the opportunity to say, hey, if things don't go my way, I'm born disabled or a certain color, I still want to have, for example, a good quality of life and also opportunities just like everyone. So taxes, in a way, they allow you to go out there and be able to do that, okay? Taxes help us in a lot of ways. And that's why for this video, it's about basically save money in taxes, but it's not about, hey, we're going to basically avoid taxes completely and try to basically exterminate taxes. No, I like paying taxes. I understand them, and that's the idea, okay? It's not to avoid them, it's just to go ahead and save money on my fair share of taxes. That's the overall goal here. On top of that, guys, we also have, for example, state taxes. And these taxes are used, for example, for education purposes, building roads, and also, for example, building bridges, and also repairing roads, and also repairing bridges, okay? And by the way, I know for a fact in the US, we complain a lot about potholes, but if you ever been outside the US, guys, then in reality, you would know that basically in some places, we don't even have roads, okay? So I don't really complain that much when it comes to, for example, state taxes or, for example, potholes anymore, because guess what? Some states, well, not states, but some places outside of the US, they don't have roads, okay? So there's no potholes there because basically there are no roads. And you also have, for example, local taxes for police and also, for example, fire services. And by the way, in New York, you get all these taxes, okay? Every single one of them. The federal one, the state tax, the local tax, every tax you could possibly think of, we get it right here in New York. And that's why it's so expensive, and that's why I'm leaving this state as early as June, okay? On top of that, we also have, for example, property taxes. And by the way, these taxes go, for example, towards public schools and so on. And by the way, there is no way to avoid property taxes, okay? Once you buy a property, that tax is going to be, for example, ongoing, okay? Yes, there's deductions, all that stuff, I understand that, but there's no way to avoid that tax. That tax goes, for example, towards public schools and all that stuff, okay? Expect to pay that no matter what, okay? On top of that, you also have sales taxes. That's whenever you buy something, you have to pay that 8% or that 6% depending on your state and so on. And by the way, some states don't tax food, which is actually pretty awesome. You also have payroll taxes, which is basically Social Security and Medicare tax. And by the way, the idea is that payroll tax is basically like an annuity. Basically meaning like, hey, you put money today, you get it tomorrow. I don't really like that idea, but I do understand, for example, that some people, if they don't pay any payroll taxes, in reality, they probably wouldn't have anything for the future. So I understand that at all costs, but in reality, I'd rather just do my own investing, okay? However, I do understand why the system is set up this way, okay? And by the way, guys, that's a lot of taxes, obviously. But I did not even mention, for example, inheritance tax, estate taxes, capital gains tax, and a lot of other taxes here in the US, okay? So there are a lot more. And that's why if you can save money in some way, I recommend it. Because it's not like you're avoiding tax completely. You're going to pay taxes some way, but to avoid some is not a bad thing either. Now, let's talk about exactly the states you can actually go to save a lot of money on taxes, okay? And obviously, guys, the best states are going to be, for example, California and New York, okay? It's pretty awesome, okay? Awesome, right? California is an awesome state for taxes. No, I'm kidding, okay? Obviously, they both suck, okay? They're not tax-friendly states whatsoever. However, guys, okay, remember, when it comes to taxes, they're important, but you also want to make sure you're focused on, for example, your quality of life. You know, yes, I can go somewhere, save a lot of money, but if I'm not happy there, comfortable there, then I probably don't want to live there for the rest of my life, okay? So taxes is very important, but don't forget about, for example, quality of life. But California and New York, obviously, very excessive. But if you like it here, you make a lot of money here, you're also doing great here, you're very balanced out here, all that stuff, I don't mind you staying in those states, but in reality, if you can't avoid it and be comfortable somewhere else, then why not go ahead and do that? Now, guys, the very first state to actually move to and save my taxes is going to be, for example, Alaska, okay? And by the way, before you skip this one, say, Tommy, there is no way I'm going to move to that cold but state, okay? Because by the way, it's very cold. I do understand that. But by the way, Alaska is not that bad, okay? Look at this, guys, okay? This right here is a property over in Alaska, all right? It's a beautiful property. Yes, there's always going to be snow in every picture, most likely, but it's beautiful, okay? Alaska is not like, oh, only people that want to save money and also, for example, like get paid to live there actually go there. No, no, no. They're actually nice places, okay? And by the way, look at this, guys, okay? This right here is Alaska. Always snow in almost every picture, okay? Even like in the springtime. But yeah, you know, it's still a nice place to actually live. Would I live there? The answer is no. However, though, by living in Alaska, you can save a lot of money. For example, there are no state taxes, no local tax. On top of that, you also get paid to actually live there up to $2,000 per year, okay? But the big thing is basically, although you save money to live there, you get paid to live there, you do pay an extra 10% a year almost to live there, because basically things are a lot more expensive in Alaska, because guess where you are? In Alaska. So to get things there, it's going to take a lot more effort and also a lot more work, okay? So that's why things are going to be more expensive in Alaska. And by the way, guys, there's also no inheritance tax, and also sales tax is also pretty low. But the big con is basically going to be your cost of living. Obviously, utilities are going to go all the way up with those long, dark winters. I read somewhere that basically in Alaska, you get like around like 50 days, like I think like a 30-day mark where basically it's just darkness, okay? Now, would I want to live there? The answer is no, okay? Honestly, all right, you can pay me $2,000 or $10,000. I don't want to live in Alaska, all right, because I just don't like the cold that much. So I wouldn't be, again, quality of life is very important. Now, for everyone out there saying, Tommy, I agree here, okay? I don't want to live somewhere like this cold. Well, the next state is going to be Florida. Yes, Florida. There is no snow over there, so at least you're going to be at peace with that. And the big thing is basically there is no state tax when it comes to Florida. So if you're looking to retire there, you can save money when it comes to your Social Security benefits. And that's why you see so many old people, well, old folks living in Florida to save a lot of money when it comes to Social Security benefits. On top of that, they have a lot of golf courses. I'm not a big fan of golf, but if you like golf, you might as well go out there to play golf, all right? And by the way, the property taxes are pretty average. They're not that low. They're in line with the national average, so you can't really save that much money on that. Sales tax is also pretty average, but there's also no inheritance tax. And by the way, that's awesome. On top of that, also, if I passed away, why is it that now I also have to pay, for example, an estate tax? And that's why usually, before people pass away, they give everything away or transfer it over and die broke. That way, they don't have to pay, for example, a big, massive estate tax, okay? If you guys don't have a will, get a will to make sure everything is in order and basically transfer from your assets. That way you can save a lot of money when it comes, well, not you save money, but your people that are actually going to inherit all the assets and so on can save a lot of money on that too. That's the big thing here, guys. And on top of that, guys, the third state is going to be Georgia. You know, you can save a lot of money here also, for example, for saving money when it comes to Social Security tax, okay? Also, low sales tax, no estate tax. And honestly, guys, although I like saving money, you know, when I'm older and so on, the big idea is going to be, okay, if you want to save money on taxes, you got to move to a state where usually there's not going to be any state tax, because basically that's going to be the big chunk, okay? However, every single state, all 50 states are still going to charge you federal taxes. So basically saving, for example, on property taxes, also, for example, state taxes and local taxes and also sales tax, that right there is going to make the big difference. So usually, if you're a high earner and not, for example, older, have, for example, Social Security, you're going to want to move to a state where basically you can save a lot of money when it comes to state taxes. And that's why, for example, Graham and Stephen move over to like Nevada, because there's no state tax there also. Or people go, for example, to Florida, like I wanted to also initially, no state tax there also. It's just a lot of money in savings, somewhere around like $20,000, $35,000, depending on how much you actually make and so on. But it can save you a lot of money to the point where all your cost of living can be taken care of just from example, that state tax you're actually saving money on, okay? So that's awesome. And by the way, guys, remember though, right? You can always be, for example, a snowbird. And by the way, in accounting terms, is snow like Alaska and bird as in bird, like you're flying or whatever. A snowbird is someone that basically, they live in one state officially to basically save money on taxes. For example, okay, if I live in New York, for maybe like 6 months, well, less than 6 months, and I go to Florida and stay there, for example, for like half the year plus 1 day, that means officially I'm a citizen of, for example, Florida. So I don't pay state taxes, but I can still live in New York for like almost half the year. So if you want to live in one state, also in another state, you can if you want to, like, oh, summer's in New York, but winter's in Florida, okay? That way, you can also save money and also increase the quality of life if you do want to be living in New York at the same time, okay? That's something to do, but again, honestly, I wouldn't want to be like switching from like one here, then going over here, back and forth. I like having stability, honestly. And by the way, guys, the rule is going to be basically, if you want to do this, you got to stay in the other state, right, that where you actually want to get taxed for more than half the year. So basically, half the year plus 1 day in order for you to actually be officially there. So almost like over 183, 84 days to actually live there and then go over to the next state. But then while you're not in that state, you still pay rent and utilities. So keep that in mind. So it has to make sense. It just can't be like, I'm going to be here and here and around. The math has to make sense, okay? Because there's also expenses, okay? So keeping this in mind when you're actually trying to do this. And by the way, guys, some other states are going to be, for example, South Dakota, Nevada, Mississippi, Wyoming, Delaware, Alabama, Arkansas, and a few others out there. But the big goal is going to be, again, usually you want to go somewhere, if you're a big earner, where you can actually save money on state taxes. That's going to be basically the biggest blob of money you can possibly get. And those states make money, for example, from a lot of different sources. So make sure everything averages out, because sometimes it might be, for example, like, hey, come here for this, but you spend a lot of money on something else, okay? So just make sure it averages out overall. However, guys, okay, tell me, what exactly are you going to be doing, okay? Are you going to go, for example, to another state? Are you going to Florida? Are you going to Nevada? Or are you going to Alaska? I already told you guys I'm not going to Alaska, okay? But in reality, I'm not going to any US state. That's the truth, okay? I'm actually going to go to a territory of the US, okay? And that territory is called Puerto Rico. Okay, because Puerto Rico right now has an Act 20 and also Act 22 that can save you, for example, a lot of money when it comes to taxes, like a lot of money. Because in reality, again, Puerto Rico is a territory. It is not a bona fide state in any way. So if you stay there, usually you can basically avoid federal taxes. So a big part is federal taxes. So if I can save money on that by being there and basically exporting my services to basically the US under Act 22, I think, the answer is that can save me a lot of money, all right? Now, I still have to pay, for example, payroll tax, also the property taxes over there in Puerto Rico and so on, and sales tax, so I still get taxed some way, somehow. By the way, it's always going to be that, but if I can go, for example, from $85K in taxes all the way down to around $10,000 or $15K at the minimum, or the maximum actually, that is still going to save me a lot of money by going ahead and moving to Puerto Rico. So if you actually have, by the way, also, if you have, for example, a lot of capital gains, you get taxed a lot of, for example, in capital gains tax, you can save a lot of money over there in Puerto Rico also, because they basically waive the entire capital gains tax under Act 20, I think, okay? That way, you also can save a lot of money if you're trying to retire and most of your money is coming, for example, from capital gains, okay? That's also a lot of money being saved. But again, quality of life is going to be very important to me. And by the way, I used to live in Puerto Rico before, so it's not like a new thing to me. And I also speak Spanish. I like the whole area. It's also tropical. A lot of places to actually go to, a lot of beaches, you know. So in reality, Puerto Rico is going to be the place for me. But overall, if you want to save money in taxes, usually it's going to be finding a state that doesn't charge you, for example, state taxes, obviously, and also other taxes here and there. But towards the end of life, if you want to like be worried about inheritance tax and basically like estate taxes, you can just move to another state, be a bona fide citizen there, and basically save all that money also, or just get your will in order and everything else in order. But guys, again, okay, over 7 taxes, okay? And I just mentioned, for example, just a little iceberg on it. Not every single thing here, okay? But overall, if you want a full video on exactly how I'm gonna save money in Puerto Rico, like overall, like a full definition video, comment down below and I'll get to work, okay, guys? I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified. And if you want to join me on my other channel, well, link down below. If you want to call me one-on-one, talk to me for free for around 30 minutes from Monday to Friday, the answer is join my third channel, link down below, where I take calls from Monday to Friday. And if you want to DM me with any questions, well, join me on Instagram, TommyBryson. And before I go, guys, thanks for watching. And as always, peace.